Hello there.
During the age of the Jedi, there were tens of thousands of members within the Order, and each of them had a very specific rank in the Order. There were younglings, Padawans, knights, masters, and for the very few selected Jedi Masters, the rank of Council member, and then of course the Jedi Master, but we're not talking about that in this video. To be given the rank of Jedi Council member was an extremely rare privilege, because only 12 members could coexist at a given moment, with the Grand Master leading them all. In the Jedi Order, there were actually 4 different councils that all met on different pillars of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. There was the Council of First Knowledge, who oversaw the ancient Jedi wisdom and temple archives, as well as archive curriculum. The Council of Reconciliation, who were tasked with settling interplanetary problems. The Council of Reassignment, who are tasked with giving roles and jobs to Padawans who were not chosen to be trained or who did not pass the rank of trials. And then, of course, there's the Jedi High Council, which will be the main focus of today's video. The Council was tasked with overseeing the training of all Jedi Padawans. The Jedi Council members were the ones that decided if a Padawan should be ready to enter knighthood, and were tasked with maintaining the order within the galaxy and the order itself. In this video, I will be talking about each and every Jedi Council member from the prequels in canon. To start things off, I feel like it's only fitting that we choose the Grand Master himself, Yoda. Yoda, without a doubt, is the oldest and most experienced Jedi in the entire order at the time. I won't be talking about Yoda for too long because we already know who he is. He's such a well-known character. And plus, I've talked about him in my previous video, which you guys should totally watch. Yoda served on the High Council for hundreds of years. It is said that Master Yoda has trained over 1,000 Jedi into knighthood. Master Yoda would later go on to survive Order 66, and after failing to kill Darth Sidious, went into exile on Dagobah and learned the key to immortality with the help of Qui-Gon Jinn. Yoda would later go on to train his last student and the galaxy's last hope, and would later die of old age at being a little older than 900. Next up on this list, we have Mace Windu. Windu was commonly seen as Yoda's right-hand man and second in command. The male human would take Master Katri's seat after her death, who we will be talking about later in the list. There, Master Windu would remain on the Jedi Council for the rest of the duration of the Jedi Order, until being thrown out of a window by Anakin. It is still debated whether he died or not. I believe he survived. Mace Windu was a wielder of a very unique lightsaber color, that being, of course, purple. He also used a very unique lightsaber form, Vapad, which is a variation of Form 7. He even mastered a force ability called Shatterpoint. While he might have been one of the strongest Jedi in the Order, his main weakness was that he followed the code too strictly, which played a huge role in Anakin's fall to the dark side. Plo Koon was a Keldorian Padawan to a very rare Wookiee Jedi master named Tyvaka. Due to him not living on an oxygen-rich world, Plo Koon was forced to wear a mask and goggles wherever he went. He was a Jedi that discovered a very young Force-sensitive child called Ahsoka Tano and brought her into the Order to be trained. During the Clone Wars, Plo Koon led the 104th Battalion, or otherwise called the Wolf Pack, alongside Commander Wolf. He would come across an old crash site of a late Jedi Master known as Sifo Dyas, who went missing decades ago. Plo Koon served on the Jedi High Council until he met his untimely demise at the hands of his clone troopers during Order 66. Plo Koon was a Jedi that was loved both by the Jedi and clones alike. He was viewed as one of the most kindest Jedi in the Order, caring more about his clones than the success of a mission. This next Jedi on the list is Depa Billaba. Depa was a human native of the planet of Shalaka, born around 64 BBY, and was a Padawan of the Jedi Council member Mace Windu, and would later go on to take an apprentice called Caleb Doom, or otherwise known as Kanan Jarrus. During the events of the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, Depa served on the High Council. She would not be present during the Battle of Geonosis, though. But during the early days of the war, she would engage General Grievous in a duel, but would lose, and her entire clone battalion would suffer a 90% casualty. After the duel, she would put in a bacta tank for 6 months in a coma. This would cause her to step down from the council, but would later rejoin. In a later time, she would leave again, but for an unknown reason. Before Revenge of the Sith in the final days of the Republic, Depa and her Padawan Caleb would lead the attack on a planet Kala, where they would be pinned down until the arrival of Clone Force 99, the Bad Batch. And after managing to push the droids back, Caleb and the Bad Batch would go after them to mount a counterattack. But then Order 66 would be issued, and Clone Commander Gray and his men would open fire on the commander. She would give her life to save Caleb Doom from the clones, thus allowing him to survive the clones and join the rebellion. Next up on our list, we have the newest Jedi member that was on the council, a female Merlin that served the Jedi Council before the events of the Phantom Menace. On a mission on Raxus Sidonis, she would be betrayed and killed by a group of security droids. Due to this, Mace Windu and Count Dooku would be interested in learning what actually happened and went to the planet to investigate. Eth Koth was an Eerdonian Zabrak who served on the council since before the Phantom Menace. He participated in the Battle of Geonosis, and later in the war he would be captured by the infamous General Grievous in the Battle of the Planet of Seleucami. He would then be rescued by Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Adi Gallia, who I will all be talking about later. He would later step down from the council and leave the order completely. After leaving, he would get married and have a daughter and become a priest. But during the events of Order 66, Eth Koth would be hunted down by his inquisitors and would be killed, and his daughter would be taken for Project Harvester. This next Jedi on the list is a council member's favorite Jedi to send to get pizza. Yariel Poof is a Corpsman who, similar to Yoda, served on the Jedi Council for hundreds of years, and even during the High Republic era. Unfortunately, though, Poof would die on a mission that saved countless lives before the events of Attack of the Clones, but would be replaced behind the scenes in order not to be confused with the Kaminoans. The next member on our list is Adi Gallia. Gallia was a female Thalothian born on Coruscant around 80 BBY. As I've mentioned in the previous council member, Gallia was a part of a team that rescued Eth Koth, and later in the war, she would aid Obi-Wan on a mission to Florum. While on the planet, she would duel Savage Opress and formerly Darth Maul. Gallia would be killed by Savage by him impaling her with his horns. Opa Rancisis is a Thesipian male born on the planet Thesapius in 206 BBY, who, similar to Yoda and Yariel Poof, served on the Jedi Council since the High Republic era, and was viewed as one of the Order's wisest member. He was present during multiple very important council meetings, and during the Clone Wars, led the attack on Seleucami along with Quinlan Voss. Rancisis was actually one of the few Jedi who survived Order 66 and the following purge. The next member on the list is Evan Peel. Evan was a Lonic male who lost his left eye during a fight with terrorists on his home planet. During the Clone Wars, he would be assigned a very dangerous mission in the Outer Rim, where he and Captain Tarkin discovered and each memorized their half of the Nexus route. This Nexus route led directly into the heart of the Republic and Separatist homeworlds. Desperate for this information, the Separatists would capture him alongside Tarkin in the Citadel. In hopes of retrieving the mission and saving the Jedi, a task force led by Anakin and Obi-Wan would rescue Tarkin and Evan. Unfortunately, Evan would be killed during the escape, but would pass on his information to Anakin's Padawan Ahsoka Tano, who memorized the other half of the information. This next member on their list is one of the only other members in Yoda's species in canon. Yaddle was a member on the Jedi Council for a very long time, before the events of the Phantom Menace. She also trained fellow council member Opa Rancisis. In Legends, Yaddle would step down from the council and would take a lesser role during the events of Phantom Menace. But in canon, she would sense the conflict within Count Dooku after Qui-Gon's death at the hands of a Sith called Maul, and would follow Count Dooku to the industry sections on Coruscant and witness the meeting between him and Sidious. Yaddle would confront Dooku and attempt to bring him back to the light side, but would fail and be forced to fight Dooku. Unfortunately, though, Dooku would manage to kill Yaddle. Next up on the list is my boy Kiadi Big Brain, Mundi. Mundi is a rare, nearly extinct species that actually had two brains similar to Yariel Poof. And similar to Master Windu, he even got to speak in the movies, which is something that we don't often see with council members. Mundi often stuck strictly to the Jedi Code and used logic. This made him have a hard time believing that the Sith had returned. Mundi was not only present at the first Battle of Geonosis, but he also fought in the second as well. Mundi was the one that originally expelled Ahsoka Tano from the Jedi Order, when it was suspected that she was the culprit behind the Jedi bombings. During the final days of the Republic, Mundi would drop his most famous and iconic line, "What about the droid attack on the Wookiees?" but would fight on the planet of Megiddo. It was there on that planet on a bridge where Order 66 would be issued. There his clone commander Braca and his fellow clone marines would open fire on him, resulting in his death. This next Jedi on our list was called Sazi Tint, a male Ixtochi Jedi Master. He fought in the first Battle of Geonosis and was a renowned Jedi lightsaber duelist, and a legendary pilot, being second to only Anakin Skywalker. He also had a telepathic ability that was far more superior than most other Jedi. Tint, along with Agent Kolar, Kit Fisto, and Mace Windu, would confront the Sith Lord and battle him in a duel, but would result in his death, becoming one of the first victims of the Jedi Purge. This next Jedi is hands down one of the strongest Jedi to ever exist, only being less powerful than Jar Jar Binks and Darth Gonk Droid. Coleman Terbar was a male Volk Jedi who replaced Yariel Poof after his death. Coleman was present during the Battle of Geonosis and made a fatal mistake by deciding to attack Count Dooku in an attempt to end the war before it even started. He would unfortunately, though, be gunned down by Jango Fett. This next Jedi is called Stas Ali. Ali was actually the cousin of another Jedi Council member called Adi Gallia. She took her seat after her death at the hands of Savage Opress. Ali was present during the Battle of Geonosis. She was also said to be very skilled with a very rare force ability called Force Healing, and at a certain point of time, joined and oversaw the medical corps. During the final days of the Republic, Ali, alongside Commander Nero, led the 91st Reconnaissance Corps on Seleucami, where the dreaded Order 66 came. Commander Nero and his clones next to him did not hesitate to shoot down Commander Ali. Shakti was a Togruta, the same species as a fellow Jedi called Ahsoka Tano, who took a seat on the council after Yaddle died. Like most other Jedi that I've covered on this list, she was present during the Battle of Geonosis. After the battle, she'd be reassigned to oversee the training of all the clones in the Grand Army of the Republic. Due to her compassionate view, she often clashed with the Kaminoans, who had a more cold and heartless way. Shakti might have discovered the plot to Order 66 if it wasn't for the Kaminoans and Palpatine. While we may know a lot about her, there are some things that we do not know about her, which is her death. She most likely died in the deleted scene of Revenge of the Sith where Anakin killed her, due to that also being shown in the Star Wars show The Clone Wars. But in a previous scene, deleted of course, General Grievous killed her. And there's also another scene in a video game where she is killed by Starkiller. So we don't really know how she dies. Next up on our list, we have everyone's favorite council member, Kit Fisto, due to him being extremely buff and having a dashing smile. After the Battle of Geonosis, Fisto would take a seat on the Jedi Council that belonged to Coleman before he died. Sometime during the war, Fisto and his apprentice, named Namar Webb, would track down Newt Gunray, only to realize it was General Grievous's lair. After his apprentice died, Fisto would duel Grievous, and he might have won if it wasn't for Grievous's guards coming to save him. Due to his species being able to breathe underwater, he would accompany Anakin Skywalker to liberate the planet of Mon Cala. At the end of the Clone Wars, Fisto would accompany Mace Windu in arresting the Chancellor, but would be killed. This next member on the list was the same species as Eth Koth, being a Zabrak. Agent Kolar even took his seat on the council after he left. During the Battle of Geonosis, he would fight with the green lightsaber, but would lose his Padawan. The reason I bring up his lightsaber color is because if you look at his lightsaber color in Revenge of the Sith, he is using a blue lightsaber. This is due to him having 2 kyber crystals. The way he would get his second kyber crystal is by taking it from his Padawan, as a sign of respect. He was also another one of the Jedi who accompanied Mace Windu to arrest Palpatine. He would be the first Jedi to die during the Purge. Coleman Kajar was a hangry Jedi Master who, like most Jedi, fought on the Battle of Geonosis. We don't really know who this Jedi member took the seat of on the council, with very little being known about him, but he is commonly mistaken for another Jedi called Pablo Gil. But there is some stuff we do know about him. That is, that he does survive Order 66, but would be hunted down and captured by the Inquisitors and killed. This next Jedi is probably the most well-known Jedi across Star Wars fandom. He is the king of memes and the high ground. I am talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi. Kenobi was trained by Qui-Gon Jinn during the Phantom Menace and was a master of Form 3 Sorzu. He would eventually take on the seat of Evan Peel during the Clone Wars. He would also train Anakin Skywalker. Right after killing Grievous, his clones would turn on him due to Order 66 being active. He would of course survive and go on to duel his apprentice in the most epic duel to ever exist and defeat him, turning him into Darth Vader. He would then go on to exile and watch over Luke Skywalker and eventually train him. Our final Jedi on the list is probably the Jedi who spent the least amount of time on the council, due to him being the reason they're all dead. Of course, he's the one and only Anakin Skywalker. Different to all the other Jedi on the list, Anakin was not chosen by the council to be on the council, but instead was chosen by the Chancellor to be on the council, which the Jedi did not approve of. But we all know what happens to Anakin and what he does. This about wraps up our list for all the Jedi that served on the council. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and comment down below who your favorite council member is, and if you have any video ideas for me to do next. And with that, my fellow Star Wars nerds, may the Force be with you.